The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. CBR Street Gang, this is all by standing by, over.
Hey guys, Paranormal Mystic here, and I have so many things I want to talk about because I have been kind of hidden from the scene for a while. I kind of been, I don't know, in the womb of ideas, of processing how I want to go about things, and I admit that it is probably the combination of all of the retrogrades that happened and some certain aspects in my own transits. And then Virgo season came, and I mean, I just had so many goals, and I went really deep inside, really deep within. And so I decided to kind of allow that process. And in society, we're not really kind of allowed to do that. If you have a normal job or you're a normal matrix participant, right? And I felt that this need was imperative to my growth, both physically, mentally, even financially. And I didn't expect to jump into I guess, the deep rabbit hole or many rabbit holes that I jumped into. It all started with wanting to do a podcast on why I believe alien tech is actually destroying our planet. And I wanted to do some research for it. And then all of this deep processing started happening because I was doing some YouTube videos, here and there, and even dabbled in tarot some. And more, I realized that dabbled in tarot videos, I should say. I've been doing tarot for decades, but um, I realize I don't really support the way YouTube treats content creators or some of the scams that they do, the fraud they commit. And I'm waiting for the FTC to actually do something about it. Not just for me personally, but what I've been seeing across the board, everything from kind of spam ads that look very similar to the kind of stuff that the government would use to torture people. Pink slime pouring out, jiggling women alongside other weird, it's like so many images flooding at you. I really do believe it is a form of mind control and torture. And if you guys, want to laugh at me, go ahead. You're the weird ones if you think that's normal, not me. And I know our kids are inundated with that on TikTok and everywhere else. And if you just click on articles you want to read, it's bad too. You'll see so many ads popping up, and some of them are just absolutely disgusting and very disturbing. And I really do think this is kind of like a giant psyop thing. And people wonder why kids all of a sudden go off the rails and become very violent. And I'm like, okay, this kind of actually does have a lot to do with alien tech as well, because our government's gotten a hold of it. And, we have some people out there that only want to speak on the positive and only want to be, oh, well, this alien tech is saving lives and blah, blah, blah. And I actually believe the opposite. Now, I will say that what I believe or what I think isn't the end all be all for you or me. I absolutely love being wrong. I like being proven wrong because, I don't have that neurotypical need for being right or that pride to demand that my way is the only way. Is actually really intriguing to see different points of view. But I do think it's dangerous if people don't also consider different points of view, and many people won't do that. And you have a lot of people who hate the government, think everything they do is evil. And then you have the ones who want to sugarcoat everything. And life is a bowl full of cherries, right? Okay, now back to the whole ads thing. This stuff that they're doing to us and kids, being violent. They want to say, oh, well, they haven't been socialized enough because of COVID and blah, blah, blah. And I actually think that is all part of their agenda, their narrative, and their programming. And so I think it's more along the lines of, first off, people mimic and copy their authority figures. And the government has done everything it can since the Rockefellers created school to become the parent. And the more it pushes that, the more kids become young adults and they look at their quote unquote parent or even your God, if you will. And our government is in tons of debt. Anytime it gets into too much debt, it just gets more. How many of us can call our local credit card company and say, yeah, I've maxed out. I need to raise the bar. Usually they have to look at your income, and they might once or twice, but they're going to cap it off at some point, right? The more the government gets into debt, the more its people follow. The more it becomes violent and justifies it, the more the people follow. The more that it pretends that it's insanity and the things that it does is okay, the more that people follow. So when you see kids lashing out, becoming violent, or losing control, look at what our leaders are doing and look at how they cover things up and justify things and pretend it's okay when it's not. So I think we need to look a little bit deeper into that. And it's kind of odd because I do want to get into some of the similarities and like what Chris Bledsoe has said and some things that I've gone through, because his perspective is so very different than mine. And I think that's because he really does genuinely come from a place of privilege. And it's what happens, especially if you're a white male in a first world country and you haven't gone through suffering. It's very difficult to want to face the hard things, to face the destruction, the poverty, um, the CP out there, the rape, the human trafficking, the starvation, dehydration, the neglect that we're all going through around the world. And because of my unique circumstance, I was born somewhat privileged in a upper class home, but because it was a very, like, I don't know, conservative, Southern Baptist, Christian, very right wing, they have a huge tendency to kind of do what the Doers do, which is to, cover up molestation, cover up child abuse, cover up spousal rape, cover up intimate partner violence. And I had to not only endure my parents covering that up with what happened to me a lot in my life, um, and continually enabling abusive partners, but I also had to endure them completely trying to snuff out my actual spiritual abilities. And I'm a metaphysical practitioner, but I'm studying to become a professional one. And one of the things I was studying even today, it was crazy how it talks about you really need to focus on your ESP and going within and, look back at your history. And when you didn't listen to it, what happened? And sure enough, I look back and I know for a fact that not only some partners I had, but my very own parents tried so hard to break down my intuitive abilities my entire life. And I am a dreamer. I'm going to be bringing up some dreams in this. There's no way I can cover everything I want to cover in this one episode, I suppose. And it's not really all about alien tech. It's also, I want to kind of introduce some of my experiences because to be honest, even though I always like, oh, I've seen UFOs, whatever, UAPs, whatever you like. I never really wanted to call myself an experiencer because kind of avoided that. I was raised with a microscope. My mom's a microbiologist. I spent my summers with my grandfather, who's a veterinarian, and I would help him take fecal samples and look for parasites. And I always really felt like the micro is what's going to take us out, not the macro. And everyone has always been looking at the stars since I was a kid. NASA and space has been promoted since I was a kid in the 80s. And I always felt like, why is everyone so busy looking out there when there's so much within the planet we haven't discovered yet? Like, quit looking out there for answers and start looking here. Look at the deep, tiny micro versus the macro. I think both are equally important. And I feel like it was very imbalanced how everyone wants to look at what's easy to see. So I never wanted to get into UFOs, ever. Never, ever, ever. And it's so funny because as I wanted to do this alien tech thing, I listened to some people, including Chris Bledsoe, which some people have said is like a fraud and said that, he's got pictures of drones and he calls them other stuff. And I don't know yet. So you guys, if I mention anyone, again, take it sort of with a grain of salt because I am very new to the whole experiencer community. But it doesn't mean I am new to paranormal, supernatural, or even UFO stories. My grandparents literally saw one like right over their shed. And that's another story for another time. It was in the 70s. And they're like not the kind of people who just make up stuff, right? So I just really avoided it because I guess I felt like it was almost like giving away your sovereignty as a human being by hyper focusing on out there. And I always felt like there's too much here. People are not present. People are not stopping to smell the roses or examine them or look within them and all the, ecology in your local garden, even. I love permaculture and watching the beneficial insects take over my garden this year as the weeds did. it was just fascinating. I love to study. My grandfather was not only a veterinarian, but he was agnostic. He was raised by a Freemason Shriner who was a pharmacist and born in Mobile, Alabama. And he kind of ticked off his father by wanting to be a veterinarian, choosing that because he wanted him to be a doctor or a lawyer or, let's be aristocrats here. And my grandfather, the only person I can describe that remotely reminds me of him is the way Graham Hancock looks when he's talking, because my grandfather just loved knowledge. He just did. I don't know how to like fiction or watch comedies or sitcoms, or I don't know. I spent my whole life doing like he did, which is I was reading Nat Geos as a kid while other kids are reading highlights, So every plant, every tree, every animal, every bird, every track, you know, um, he would name it all, and he'd get me to name it. He would try to teach me these things, and he was always reading popular mechanics and popular science and watching. And the only thing on his TV was Nat Geo or Discovery or something back when it wasn't all fake, right? So, anywho, uh, I kind of have a very scientific perspective, but I also, I feel like, yes, there's probably some bloodline stuff going on. There's a lot of Freemasons in my bloodline. My dad, not one, or my grandfather. But we can trace it back to a couple of different people. And it's really strange. I find it really strange that every time the men in my family were drafted or even volunteered in the military, they were never put in positions where they could get in harm's way, ever. I have an uncle who was murdered in Germany by another person in the army. But, the last husband I had was like, his dad was in the Air Force, and I think he was a Mason too. And I kind of liked him. He seemed kind of nice, cool. And he had been shot down in Vietnam and survived. He was a POW. And then his dad had been killed in World War II. Never even got to meet his dad. And then I look at my family, and, my dad volunteered in the Marines, and he was put on Parris Island. He was never sent to Vietnam. And my grandfather was drafted in World War II. Only injury he got was dropping a bomb on his toe when he was loading one. So it's just weird. There's a lot of questions that I have. And if I go back a long ways in the bloodline, I know I am related to the MacLeods on the Isle of Skye. And they did marry into the McDonalds a couple of times, which they're on the creepy 13 bloodline list, which is gross. And I am mostly Irish, Scottish, some British, Wales, Scandinavian, what have you. Okay. But I do want to get back to this point. And if I ramble into rabbit holes, y'all are just going to have to take it or leave it, because I have so much to go over. It's just not going to happen in one night. Let's see. This is the creepy thing with the whole Bledsoe thing, okay? You know how like they have this obsession with like owls and the lady and stuff. I had like, that's my spirit animal. When I was with my grandfather, I always collected elephants when I was little. I thought elephant was my spirit animal until we had spotted an owl down in the bottoms. Oh, it wasn't the bottom, somewhere. My grandfather used to have almost 100 acres in Petal, Mississippi. And this owl was just so beautiful. And it was weird because it looked at me and I looked at it. I just knew that was my animal, because, I have like a long pointy nose and I have tiny, tiny ears, but I hear so well. My parents hated it. They would always tell people, watch what you say, because she has little ears, but she hears everything. And they get mad at me because they could be inside talking and I could hear them outside. And I have extremely sharp eyes. Of course, they've gotten bad with age, but my dad would call me Eagle Eyes. My mom would call me Little Ears That Hear Too Much. My dad would call me Eagle Eyes because, like, I could spot this elk deer the top of the foothill out in somewhere New Mexico. He said it was near the Mescalerian, whatever reservation. I don't remember. I don't know. I felt like it was near the Four Corners. I thought he said it was, and I'm like, that's not where the reservation is. But my dad is so weird. But you could see the snow-capped mountains from there, right? And I spotted an elk. It does say elk, mule deer. God, sorry. This is like you have no idea how much information I have to unpack. So if I get lost, I have tons of notes, and you'll just have to excuse it. Um, I had spotted it, and I was just long story, but I was left up there for hours in the dark till we could get the four-wheeler up there. That was creepy. But I've always had like super senses, especially my sight and my hearing. And I probably attribute that to like trauma from when I almost died as a baby. And that would maybe cause a hypervigilance. But that and the fact that I love night, I prefer nighttime. I hate the day. Like, I hate the sunlight. Like, it's taken me being vitamin D deficient to start embracing it. Um, and wisdom. I love the Druid Animal Oracle cards that I have. Sure enough, it was so funny. When the first time I ever had that deck, I was 19, and I asked it, what's my spirit animal? Sure enough, the owl came up, and it has to do with esoteric knowledge and wisdom and taking advantage of a disadvantage. The time of day, the night when most animals are afraid is when you thrive because you've learned how to use things that other people think are a disability, sort of. You see what I'm saying? So I knew it was mine. So Bledsoe and them have this thing with owls. So you look at his son. I have only listened to one podcast of his son so far, and I couldn't really get through the whole thing because the other guy is always whoa, whoa, and it's like those old paranormal shows, really annoying. But his picture, it's got like the owl, and it's got like that, it looks like that lady, and like so many other colors. Even I'm like, holy crap, okay, this is freaky. And the episode I listened to even was 115. And that was the last one they posted. It had to do with Metatron, which is even freakier. If you guys understand the rabbit holes that I'm jumping through here, my first dream of these entities that I know are not human, but look human. The first one I had was in January, I think, possibly February. I think it was somewhere in there of 2000. And it was the creepiest dream. It was like, I remember walking this dilapidated looking kind of apartment complex, and it was supposed to be somewhere in Germany. And I could see the paint on the rails kind of peeling and chipping, and it's like there was paint over paint. And I was looking for a room. I owed money for my uncle who had been murdered. It's like I was back in time. I was back in the 70s, and it was like my past life too. It was like I knew my uncle in a past life. And I was going to go pay someone some money that he owed them. And the room number said 115. And this being, I always kind of knew the letter began with M, but I never could understand the name fully. I nicknamed this being Marcus for the longest time. Sometimes I wondered if it was Michael. I never really knew because it wouldn't fully tell me, right? And when I walked in the room, it had that, you gotta remember this is 2000, guys. It had that silly song from Godsmack on, that I'm not the one who's so far away. And I remember when I looked at the radio and I heard the song, it's like I knew that's from the future. And I'm like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I snapped out of it and woke up. For some reason, I knew that dream was not normal. And I knew that it meant something important. And it opened up the floodgates to years and years and years of having him and another being come to me in dreams. And I need to get to the one that has to do with alien tech, which is crazy. But I did want to go over a couple, if there's anything else to mention with Bledsoe's quickly. There is a lot that I have written down with everything. But, oh yeah, look, if you go back to my YouTube channel when I talked about like the ghost I saw, the first ghost I saw, the blue ghost, the way he described seeing the lady in white sounded just like her. just like her. The long wavy hair looked like a gown or a nightgown with ruffles around the collar. And he mentioned that. I never even mentioned that. I just mentioned because she's wearing like a nightgown or something, and like kind of ruffled around the sleeves. But what he did mention was that she was floating a couple of feet above the ground and you could see her feet peeking out from the gown or whatever. I was like, holy schmackerel, are you kidding me? You're like, he might have seen a very different thing, but the way he described it sounds so much like what I saw. And I was tripping out. And so I know some people have debunked him and everything supposedly, but I'm just saying maybe, maybe he's like one of those who like has gone through this stuff. But you know how like when some people go through stuff, like everything is a sign after that and they just get hyper fixed on it. I worked with a Bigfoot hunter. This is the story of my life, guys. It's not normal. It's never been normal. If any of you ever hung out with me, you would know you'll see stuff. Like I am one of those too. If you hang out with me long enough, maybe not every day, but like if you're in a friendship relationship with me, just weird things happen. How I go from being a ghost tour guide to working somewhere that had a Bigfoot hunter when I moved up here. Just what are the chances? I don't even know. It's just nothing is an accident. And like, he was so obsessed with Bigfoot that every low res picture was legit Bigfoot. And one time he went into the detail, I think I've mentioned this before on my YouTube channel, where he was like, look, it's nipples. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you, Dean Winchester, looking at the fairy's nipples? Like, really? I'm like, do you know? And I told him, I said, look, I'll believe you under one condition. Did you actually see the Bigfoot with your own eyes there? And the camera just, like, I'll take your word for it. And the camera just didn't get a good pic. And he was like, no, we never actually saw it. We just take a lot of pictures and come home and like look at them. And I'm like, dude, that does not fly. Like I've worked in the paranormal for years and I don't want to say professionally anything, but I've seen ghosts and I've worked at paranormal like studies and things. We've done some investigations here and there. And, you can't just like they do take a bunch of random pictures too, right? Go look at an orb or look at this, but it's everyone always like debunks that stuff. Like you can't just take a bunch of pictures and make it what you want. Like the old fashioned pictures that were always ectoplasmic mist, usually it was cigarette smoke. So anywho, I was like, okay, like you need to know you don't just take pictures of nothing, right? So I don't know. I don't buy into that stuff. I'm not that kind of person. And apparently people say Bledsoe does that, right? And another thing I don't like is him always wanting to be super positive. And I get it. I mean, there is a time and a place for being positive. And this is something I'm going to have to make very clear for years because people need to get real. It is imperative to spend time every day, especially if you're recovering from trauma, pain, or suffering, to get in a positive state of mind, to do meditating, positive affirmations, whatever it takes to get your vibration up, to get your auric field strong, to get yourself in a healthy state, right? But ignoring the negative is enabling predators and pedophiles and abusers and tyrannical governments. It's enabling, possibly tyrannical, dangerous alien entities or fallen angels or whatever you want to believe in. So I feel like you have to get real. And this is something that I love about indigenous cultures. And I want people to wake up to pulling back from our roots. Okay. I've also heard some of these people recently saying, basically for the last month or two, I have done nothing but like deep dive research. I have the top like 3 macros in astrology for smarts. Okay. I'm an Aquarius sun, Scorpio ascendant, Virgo moon, and my Venus is Capricorn, and that's the good fourth. I can research like a mofo. Like I can spend days and hours and get burnt out, days and hours and weeks and get burnt out. And that's pretty much what I've been doing when I'm not studying my medical terminology and my metaphysics and doing all my other work. So, whew, I have been listening to a lot of podcasts for UFOs lately. And, this kind of like pretending everything's positive, I think is so dangerous. And okay, when I mentioned the whole privilege thing earlier, and I think that's why they do this. And the scene that always comes into my head is one of my favorite movies as a kid. It was The War. It was based in Mississippi, northern Mississippi, where it's not so hilly. And Kevin Costner was in it. Just if it's a reminder for any of you guys, it's an older movie. I think Elijah Wood was in it. And near the very, very end of the movie, there's this snooty blonde woman pressing around. And she's like, life is like a bowl of cherries. And she's completely like, she's like kind of showing the beginning of the toxic positive movement. Like how you should always be positive, always focus on the positive. Let's manifest great positive. She was kind of like setting that example, right? And this little black girl got up and she's like, excuse me. And she went on this long rant of why life is not a bowl full of cherries because she didn't come from privilege, right? And poor girl, I think, got sent to the principal's office and beat up. But I don't think they regretted it one bit. It was amazing. And I was like, that's how I feel. Because I think being positive is essential to our health. But to the extent that we ignore the suffering going on in the world right now and the planet right now, it's disgusting. Like, we're one. We're all one. We're one with the baby dying of starvation right now in another country. We're one with, insects and flora and fauna that are disappearing. We have to care. And I had listened to something where Bledsoe was talking about the divine feminine coming out and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, good, Chris, good. If you believe that, then let us come out and teach you something. Because a lot of women that are in the toxic positive movement are actually in an out of balance masculine. Because the masculine tells, it demands, it takes, it forces. It just is. It's like, give me or take this. Whereas the feminine, it doesn't judge, it just observes, it just receives. It just is in a different way. It's like you watch and you see, oh, that's very negative over there. That's something bad. That's an abusive person. And you look over there and, oh, that's very good. That's a very nurturing. You don't choose to only look at the positive because it's convenient for you. You have to choose to look at the whole picture. And so that's what I believe the feminine is doing. The divine feminine wants us to see this, right? Okay. So, I'm trying to decide if I want to get into the dream about the technology and then maybe some of the other stuff that had to do with them because, okay, like there's so many dreams I've had too about very similar things, like with Mary, okay? And, like, I actually had a dream I was Mary, pregnant with Jesus, like right before I was going to give birth, I was on like a donkey and it was late at night and dark. I'm not saying I was her. Don't think I am. I am saying like again, it could be a bloodline thing. Okay. If you look at the bloodlines that go into Scotland and Ireland, like we go way back with Jerusalem, our history has been painted very, very wrong in assuming that, that we didn't travel as much as we did. And I'm not necessarily talking about a Jesus bloodline as much as a Davidic bloodline. I know that it is just interwoven deeply in Scottish and Irish culture. And of course, the evil British Empire tried to steal it and take it, but I don't think it's rightfully theirs. I think the British are, and again, it's a thing. It's not a no, but if you look at the Vatican, you look at the British, you look at the modern religions all created this ideology that astrology and this and that is bad. Why they all had astrologers in their pocket, and they probably more come from the Mesopotamian, like the Babylonian Empire, and they're the ones who have been squishing down. I think this was a point I was going to make 2 minutes ago. Like our indigenous roots go way back. We were naturally able to walk between worlds. Some people have been making points lately that we're kind of like babies and we're not very mature in the grand scheme of things. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. You've just forgotten, honey. You've forgotten. Okay. Go way back thousands of years. And if you go back as little as just 1,000 years on the British Isles, my ancestors had the ability to walk between worlds. Very spiritually powerful people. And it was erased under the guise of religion. And I know being like dream walkers and dreamers runs in my family, and I have been ripped out of my body in astral countless times. That's another long story. Um, God, it's like I don't want to rush through this, but there's so much to say. Um, like the first time I was ever pulled out in astral, I was 13 or 14, and the first entity I saw legit looked like if you saw a glowing skeleton version of an alien gray, which some people say they have no skeletons or whatever, but it was so creepy. It was tall, long arms, long legs, big skull, big eye sockets, and just big jaws, the teeth even. The grays don't have teeth, obviously, or at least people say they don't. But whatever this glowing skeleton thing was, it was so freaking creepy. I never knew what astral or sleeping paralysis was. And I mean, it was horrifying. And so for the next several years, whenever I would start going into sleeping paralysis, I would not open my eyes. And years later, when I moved to Abilene to go to college for a short period of time, which I dropped out of for many reasons, um, I was having astral attacks in the morning instead of falling asleep. And it was always three entities with black cloaks and red glowing eyes. You could never see what they were. And they pull me out of my body and they would literally throw me around the room. And I would wake up with always I've heard some people talk about this too who are abductees, but they always act like it's real. They never want to differentiate between astral and reality. And then they also really exaggerate the marks. Like I look like I would have little burn marks and scratches. I've heard people say that, but they don't want to tell the whole truth. Like these burn marks are tiny, tiny, tiny. But that's the only way I could describe it because I smoke cigarettes then and stuff. And you know what it looks like when something little hot and burns you? I mean, like if you took a needle, literally a needle, and got it really, really hot and poked me in two little tiny spots, almost like a little spider bite or something, but it's two little spots. But it didn't look like a cut or a scratch. It almost was the way your skin would react to like something hot. And then I would have scratches on my body, but they were also as if you took like a little needle or a safety pin and just scratch little thin scratches here and there. Sometimes they'd be in twos or threes. And every so often, very rarely, every so often I would have bruises too and look like a handprint or something, which would really creep me out. And psychology, some people are like, maybe your mind put some there because you believed it so much, or I never knew. It was so confusing. And I had no answers until my best friend, her mother told her grandmother sent this to her to tell me. And she said, they're demons and you're going to have to pray for Jesus to help you. Right. And it worked. I mean, it really did work. To this day, whenever I get attacked in astral or sleeping paralysis, if I pray in the name of Jesus, you can almost feel it trying to spiritually cover your mouth. But the more that I would say Jesus, so even though I'm not into religion at all, I definitely believe in Jesus. But I mean, come on, I'm a mystic, so I'm not gonna go, oh, I'm so scared of tarot or crystals. I just think people are ignorant sometimes. But it works, and it's like if I'm so evil and bad for having tarot. I have way less attacks now. So rare, it's not funny. And now that I've embraced mysticism, and if I do, evil hates the name of Jesus. It just does. That whole Tioba prophecy is a bunk because first off, there was never really prophecy in it, and there's so much gaslighting, deflecting, and deception. It's not funny. I can go on a whole, thing on that one day. So I kind of gave you a sample of the astral stuff because some of the stuff has been mentioned. Look at people like Whitley and people like Chris Bledsoe that mentioned some similar things. I have had positive astral experiences, but not often. And okay, let's see. I did want to do this real fast too, which was I hate jumping around, but there's so much to cover. When it comes to like what he called the lady, I had these dreams for many years. Well, the one with Mary, see how much stuff. Oh my God, guys, I have so much to jump through. You're just going to have to tolerate it or not. Sayonara, right? Um, I remember like when I was married, I kept looking behind me and there was an angel following, and he just looked like a human. There's no wings, but he was following behind. Only I could see him. Joseph couldn't. And I knew I would be okay. I'd keep looking back. So long as I could see the angel, I was fine. And anyway, I had another dream. Most of these dreams happened around year 2000. The ones I'm mentioning now, but I've had them many since then. Another one was this might have been more in 2002. I think had a lot of these around there too. There was these beautiful blue and white tiles, and it's where he calls a lady in white, but I think he mentioned there was like electric glowing blue somewhere around her. With me, I felt like everything I see that has to do with what he would call the lady is like it's blue and white. Like it's like a glowing blue and white, or the colors are blue and white. I don't know how to explain it. It's like electric blue to me. She was like glowing electric blue outline with like really white light blue in filler, right? But I could still see through her. Um Anyway, this dream was these tiles of underneath. It was like whenever I have dreams, I know the location, even though it never says it. It's like I always know. So it was somewhere in England, somewhere in Britain. It felt like it was near London or somewhere. And it was like an old stone, like bridge, a small little old stone curved bridge. And underneath it were like all these like pebbles. It was dark late at night and it was quiet. And as you walk underneath it, it's like there were these tiles that were all underneath it, like on the walls of under the bridge. And most of the pictures had Mary in blue and white. And the other ones, I don't know. There was another symbol too, but I can't remember what it is now. It's been so many years, unless I could find that journal. But it's so long ago. Um, so a lot of them were broken and on the ground, like in pieces and shards. And I remember feeling so sad and picking them up. And I remember like spirit speaking to me saying like nobody wanted her. Nobody wanted her. And do you want her? Will you take this? Will you take this on? And I just remember feeling like, yes, I'll do it. I don't want to do it. But it's almost like then I had another dream like that, but it was like deep underground, like in a tunnel or somewhere underground. And it was like bricks everywhere and almost like basement windows you could barely see out of. And again, they were asking like, do you want to take this on? And I was like, there were some images that had to do with blue and white and hurt. And I was like, yeah, I will. I guess I will. And then another time, it was like two doves landed on me in a dream and they were really bright. And this bright light went all over me. And they're like, nobody wanted it. Nobody wants to do this. Will you do this? Will you take this on? And I'm like, I guess. Right. And so I'm wondering if there's a correlation with some of the stuff that he's mentioned. And I will say, like, I never really wanted to come out and talk about this stuff, to be honest, because I kind of felt like there's always been these people or energy that's tried to keep me as locked up as possible. Like, I'm not allowed to go out. I'm not allowed to talk about this. I'm not allowed to be myself. I just need to shut up and hide. I'm not allowed to be me. And it's like every time I've had a job or done this or done that, it's like someone comes along and tries to like, make sure something happens to me, whether I get really sick or something. So I'm like forced to go back into hiding and I don't like it. I did even have like a visitation the day before 9/11 and by a light being. And I don't, after all the things that I've listened to over the years, I don't know what to trust or believe anymore, to be honest. And it did mention the holy war was coming. It literally used those words, which is really strange. I don't think it had to do with between religions, though. I think it had to do with the evil that was trying to take over the world at that time. I mean, you look at the towers. I had done an article for some guy years ago, which I regret doing because he still has it up. Because I don't think I mentioned y'all yet, but I majored in journalism, and so I've always been a writer and a researcher, and been studying Egyptology and archaeology since I was in grade school. So I had written this article on the correlation between 9/11 and them using ancient Egyptian symbolism. I mean, the Twin Towers, there's like the Twin Towers of Horus and Shu mentioned in like the Book of the Dead and things. And we have, the 5 Rayed Star. of Osiris. Most of the time it'll just say Isis now, but I had seen it had to do with him before, and you have the Pentagon. And to me, the Statue of Liberty reminded me of like Achit, the Lady of Flames. And I went to this long detail article about it for this Trey Smith guy who later on decided to make Trump the savior, Cyrus, and kind of like, not only that, but he wanted to say all goes for demons. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna slowly walk away from this person, you know. So that was embarrassing. The people I've written for before is like, never mind. Just disassociate. So okay. I don't even want to get into the 9/11 or 9/10 visitation today, but I will get into the dream I had. This was in 2000, and this was in Germany again. And it didn't have to do with my uncle. This was in a past life, like long time ago, 1700s maybe. With the other entity I dream a lot, and it's so creepy because the first one I told you about has long hair. Hopefully I can get to this and maybe the most recent one I had with him. The other one I kind of like associated with the angel of death after a while based on its energy. And I actually did a cord cutting with it to get rid of it, and it worked. Haven't had dreams about him since, which is great. One time I had a dream of them, and they were like at what I call Marble Falls. It was like this place where everything was white and black and swirly stone, and there was a waterfall. And the main one that I used to nickname Marcus, which later on introduced itself as Osiris, oddly enough. And I never knew that until like a year ago. And it was like he was standing there in like a white suit with like black frogging where the buttons were. And the other guy came out of the water and he had on black suit with white frogging. And the Osiris Marcus guy, whoever you want to call it, was saying like, this isn't the right way. You can't do this. It's not right. And he's like, I'm going to do it the way I think is best. And they're arguing over something. Well, anyway, those are the two I had in this dream about the alien technology. And yes, it has taken me, 43 minutes, not including the intro, to get to this. It's so crazy. Okay, so I had this dream in 2000, and I was like in this ball. Like I had a lot of dreams then of like ballrooms and like spinning and these different characters that I would see. And in this one dream, I was dancing with the one who was darker, and I felt like everyone in the ball was drugged. It felt like Germany. I don't even know if Germany was a country then, same one or whatever, but it felt like it was like a castle somewhere in that area. I didn't even know they had castles there then, you know. I was like 19 when I dreamt this. So, dancing in this ball, and I just remember looking around and everyone just seemed in this trance. And I just remember spinning and spinning, and my hair was kind of coming out the pins. And I just remember feeling really sick and kind of out of it, and kind of sweaty and woozy. And I noticed the other guy standing and watching us standing in the staircase. And it's like he motioned for us, brought me up to this room. They left me in this room. Everything, the details of these dreams, it is unreal. I mean, the beds, the huge posts, wooden posts of these huge beds that were the mattresses so high up, and like this desk with this feather pin, and weirdly odd that the ink was red. And they left me in the room and they were talking outside of the room. And I heard what they were saying, and it was bad. So I started trying to write it all down with red ink. And when they came in and saw that I was writing it down, they killed me. And what they were talking about was the atomic bombs. And they were talking about how, is humanity ready to be given the knowledge of the bombs yet? You know, nuclear weapons and whatnot. They're going into detail on this. And they were debating on, well, not yet, because we're not ready for them to self-destruct yet. You know, we'll give them the information when we're ready for them to destroy themselves. And I was just like freaking out. I knew they had the energy, the technology, whatever, to give to humans to self destruct. And they came and killed me. And when I woke up, I didn't even wake up into real world. I woke up into astral. And it's like they were outside of my room talking, but I can no longer understand them because it was in a different language that sounded Germanic and I didn't understand it anymore. It was really crazy. And what really bothered me was like, I don't know, 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. I had a dream of them again. And they were talking about how this is weird thing. This one dream, I'm not sure if it was really them. It's almost like it looks slightly different. But it's two characters. Just by the way, these characters always have dark hair, like it's darker brown. And I think they kind of come to you in ways that you would relate because I have dark brown hair and dark eyes, even though there's a lot of people in my family with blue eyes and green eyes and blonde hair and things. I just have me and my father and my great grandfather, have the dark. A lot of people in our family don't. So I don't know if that's why, because you hear so many people's always like, oh, they're blonde and blue eyes and blah, blah. And I'm like, the more you look at this stuff, the more there's so many. I've got to do a show at some point on the connections between like the Fae and even brownies and, um, you know, what are those called? Tomties or Tomtas and a lot of alien experiences. They're tricksters a lot. And I think heard someone recently, Chris O'Brien or someone bring that. He wrote a whole book on that. And I was like, oh, I have got to get that because me and my daughter have been talking about that for years. The connection in between, the Fae and alien abductions and also like demonic attacks and alien abductions. And it's really strange that, they even did a supernatural episode like that. So this recent dream, there were two of them. I knew they weren't human again, and they were standing off the highway between somewhere between like Mount Ida and Hot Springs, Arkansas, and they were talking like, we need to hurry up. It's time. And they were like, there's not much left to get off of this planet before you destroy it. And what they were talking about was like they really wanted to hurry up and mine every last resource they could and then blow it up. And that freaked me out because, the last few months I've been seeing how they're finding all these big lithium things over here and hydrogen over there. And look at what they're doing to Australia. It's absolutely disgusting, for something. They're mining. Oh, it's just disgusting. They're to me, what they're doing is when they're mining for resources, the way that they do is like raping the land is what it's doing, destroying the planet. And these things don't care about our planet, guys. They don't care. They pretend to care. They don't care. Maybe there's some that do. You have the Ariel school and all these people that talk about how like there's like these grays that send you this energy of, we want to save the planet. We care about the planet, right? Maybe they do, but it's so funny because just yesterday I was talking to Gabby about the connections with the Fae, and she was like, well, there's a big difference in between aliens and the Fae. She was like, the fairy folk really care about the planet. They really, really care about the planet. And I was like, but do they? Or do they just trick and deceive the same way the aliens could be doing now? Are they not one and the same? And the reason why I say that is because okay, that's I can't get in this all day, but if you look at a lot of the old Fae stories, people got sick in ways that's very similar to radiation sickness now with aliens. Just saying. People that end up taken for periods of time and losing time and coming back end up really, really sick. All the old fairy stories, right? Okay, so I got really sad and heartbroken when I had that dream about them wanting to use the earth up and leave it. Cause I'm like, look, can't you just leave us in peace? If you want to use the earth up and then leave, just you don't have to blow it up. What the hell? Why do you have to destroy it? Right. And what I really think it is they don't want competition. They don't want anything here to advance and then become an adversary one day. You look at the book of Enoch, people love to say that he was so primitive, he didn't know the difference in between aliens and angels. And he made it very, very clear. I read the book of Enoch the first time in 2002, because not 2002, but I read it in 2000. No, it was 2001. Because I had been going on this life journey with all these dreams. And when I read it, it's weird, because I'm not saying he was right about everything at all. But when I finished the book, it was like my understanding of God's spirit and everything. It was like, when you close the book and I opened my eyes and I looked at every wave of grass in the wind, and it was like I felt a new God everywhere. It like completely, and I read it at the same time I've been reading the main books I was reading then was the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Bible. Mostly I always read over and over again, like Revelation, Isaiah, Daniel, the books no one likes to read. And a lot of like William Blake, of course, Edgar Allan Poe, because I'm a dramatic person. But anywho, like he made it clear that these were spiritual things, and what was spiritual. He also made it clear that he was having visions most of the time. People went out like he was really doing, but he started off with, "I had a vision, and I was taken here, here, and here," and he made a differentiation between the spirit and the flesh. So some people try to say that it's not, but he did. Now, with these things wanting to use the earth up, some people wonder, are they really from anywhere or not already from here, and blah, blah, blah. I had this kind of theory way before I had access to the internet, because I'd noticed demonic attacks and astral matched, alien abduction so much from the few, things you could see on TV. And I really wonder, no one had ever wondered this. I've never heard anyone with this theory, and this was my theory. And not saying it's right, but it was just an idea. Was if you were a fallen angel and you knew all technology, you knew every math code, you knew every, kind of like the codes within the codes. I mean, you look at how there's like computer coding and everything. They knew the codes, right? Why would they not create technology, especially when they knew they were going to be kicked off the planet? And according to Enoch, like if they died here, their soul would be literally chained and attached to this earth, and they would never be able to leave, which would make sense why they would send the Greys and aliens and things to fetch people for them, because they don't want to come to this earth again. Most of the time, I think when we see them, they, like the fallen ones, I think they don't want to come here because they don't want to get tethered to this planet and die with it. And if you had all the knowledge of an angel, but you either became flesh or you had progeny and children that were flesh. And guys, people wondered if the fallen angels really, the Nephilim ate people. Look at the Magdalenian groups of people. They were like, I just saw an article recently of chew marks where they were being eaten. And they're like, oh, it was part of a funerary thing. Bullshit. It was probably part of the Nephilim literally eating people. Okay. So I'm thinking, like, what would you do if you had that technology? What if your children were like half immortal, like very difficult to kill, but yet still mortal in the flesh some way, right? Maybe they would create something to leave, whether it's through interdimensions or whatever. Now, I have actually had a dream recently that showed me how aliens travel, and which is really, really cool. They showed me the details. It does have to do with also cryptids and ghosts and how they're causing issues because they're traveling so much in these certain ways that it's causing issues. But I need to say that for another video. Now, creepiest thing. You guys will think this is so funny, I'm sure. Okay, the one that I said he was Osiris, right? Around 2021, maybe 2022. I think it might have even been 2020, this first dream. It was like I woke up and I was on another planet. And one reason why I wanted to start talking more about experience or stuff is because when I started going through my journals, the amount of dreams I've had on other planets or in spaceships and stuff is like, oh, maybe I have a lot more of this than I really understand. Okay. Just have been not wanting to face it, really. So, and it was cool is I'm not tainted by, people say, oh, well, you become what you hang around and you start to see and feel and hear what your community does. And I'm like, I haven't been hanging out with the experiencer community. So it's like, I'm a virgin. I'm an experiencer virgin here. So, anyway, I had this dream. I was on another planet. I woke up in a bed and he was there. And it's kind of like he was tending to me. It felt kind of like a little hospital, really, really clean. So it felt so peaceful and safe. And he was saying, like, you belong here. You don't belong there anymore. You belong here. You need to wake up now. You're sleeping. You need to wake up, wake up. You need to be here. And I was thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And I was thinking, like, you don't feel like God to me. Like, you don't, like, I was like scanning his energy for, are you source? Like, is this heaven? Is this, you know, the source of my creation? Like, are you my creator or anything? And I knew it wasn't. So I didn't feel connected to him, but he felt connected to me, obviously. And he was like, you belong here and you won't have the pain and the suffering and the chronic pain that you have on earth. You need to be here. And I was like, I don't want to be here. And none of this was me saying it. It was kind of like just me thinking it as he spoke. And he picked me up and he walked me outside. And there was like this waterfall like to the left and trees everywhere and this water. And he started walking me into the water and dipped me under the water. And when he did, it was like I felt this healing, like the water was healing. It's like it healed every part of me. And I felt so good. And then I woke up. And I knew he's for years has been trying to get me to want to be with him, wake me up, snap me out, be with him. And I'm like, I don't want to be with you. And but with the creepiest dream I had with him probably was in 22, maybe into 21. I mean, and it was going to sound funny to you guys, so we can laugh. Ha ha ha. It's just awful, guys. It's awful. I can't believe it. Like, legit little green men. I'm not kidding. It's like 2-3 feet tall little green men, like little grays, but green. I'm doing my thing, River. Go. So I'll be done soon. Sorry, he's going to come in and I'm like talking. So, okay. They pulled me in astral, which I know what astral is. I'm not like naive like so many people in paranormal, not just experience your communities. Pulled me out of my body. I was wide awake and like my peripheral was kind of bad, so I couldn't see very well on each side of me. But there were several of these little green beings on each side of me. And the weirdest thing, they laughed and it felt like their laugh was so high in vibration, it tinkled, like had this almost like glass tinkling so sharp. Their laughter was so high pitched and so high in vibration. I could feel their joy. They were so happy and they were so high in vibration that I started to feel happy. Like, wee, like we're floating up out of my roof. Okay, I'm in the sky now. And then I saw him and he was up there and it was him. And it was like, he was like, wanting them to bring me to him. And he let me know he was Osiris, right? And that was the first time I ever heard him introduce himself as Osiris. And I was like, oh, hell no. No, 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 no. I was like, no, 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 not going today. And so then like snap, I wake up. And I'm not kidding. Like every time I like see spaceships and stuff like in real life and they're really close or something, I start yelling, I don't want to get probed. I don't want to get probed. And they'll like disappear. So I don't know. You guys, those of you who are not experiencers are just going to think I'm nuts. But those of you who are, you're probably going to be like, oh my God, this woman's in denial. She needs to just face it. It's so crazy. Okay. Now, just every time I think about that, part of me loved it because I loved the way those things laughed. It was so cute. But then, like, I totally, like, I don't know. There's too many stories of both good and bad versions of those things, Some of them are mean and they pick on you and do mean. I have had dreams of mean ones. I've had so many dreams about aliens and things. You're not gonna, I mean, I can't even begin to explain how many I've had. It's unreal. So Which is weird. I'm doing this tonight with the whole Pluto square Mars because I'm doing this on the 8th. I probably won't be up today, obviously. Because like this is like an intense time, really intense. That reminds me, if this isn't up before the 10th or the 11th, 1027, guys, that number's been haunting me for a few years now. Since I've moved up here, I thought maybe it's because it's my brother's birthday, or maybe it's because my ex-husband picked that for our wedding date, even though he didn't know it was my brother's birthday, which is weird. But I see it on the clock all the time, besides the 115. 115 haunts me, and 1027. And when I found out that Pluto was going to be stationed direct at 27 degrees in the 10th month, even on the 10th day, it goes direct, I think, technically on the 11th. I really worry that something is going to happen because, if I'm telling you guys about this whole alien tech thing, don't forget that if I heard somewhere that like I don't know, metaphysics, some podcast, that like the guy who created the atomic bomb said it was given to him by like a fallen angel or some kind of entity and he regretted it, right? Just like my freaking dreams I had years ago before I ever heard that. And you've heard those stories. I like Phil Schneider, okay? His story made so much sense. You look at his death pictures, there's no way that was an accident. And his story, I mean, come on, I think there's definitely real evil. I believe there's real evil, but there's also very real good. And I also think there's a lot of trickster spirits out there. I also think of that theory of like, say, I don't even think I had finished going through that with the whole like, say, fallen angels could create technology to leave and create their own planet, their own world. Why not do it, right? For their children. That's what I think has happened. Okay. Whether it's interdimensional or it's literally on another planet, they would leave and go to other planets. The thing is that if they started having like whole create civilizations of their own, created by fallen angels, like they're like demigods and gods and everything, those beings born there, they don't know any different. They don't know that they're evil if they're not told that. They might even have been told, "Oh yes, you created humans. You existed longer than humans and they come from us." There might be entities on other planets that literally believe that. Do you see what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of things out there that are tricksters intentionally, and I think like the fallen definitely would try to trick us intentionally to keep us confused. And I do think there's a lot of beings out there like Jinn and whatnot who've always been tricksters, and almost every culture has them. And then I also believe it's possible that there's beings out there who think that they are good. And they don't know any better. Like they might actually think they're trying to help, but they could be making things worse. And there's so much evidence that our technology has come from like bad aliens. And people might think, oh, that's just not true. That's not true. Okay, this is a very valid point I want to make is look in front of you right now and how natural is your view. I'm looking at this mic. I'm looking at this computer. I was everything that's like made with plastic. Okay. The other day, driving into Hot Springs, and there is this dump truck in front of me and flashing lights. And it just looks so like I know, like if you were to take a carriage made by beautiful carriage from 1800s and go throw it in the woods, the majority of it would have broken down in 100 years. Besides maybe some of the little iron, parts to it. If you were to take that dump truck and go dump it in the woods, it would take a long time for it to break down and rust and become something that you don't know exists, right? So everything that you look around you that seems unnatural, wake up out of your matrix fog and realize that it is not natural. Okay. The Industrial Revolution, I don't know. There's at some point where we were given too much knowledge in the wrong way. Like for profit, these dark, evil elites, have been making things at 100 miles per hour, not caring about the destruction and pollution in their wake. They're wanting you to focus on things like carbon, but just completely ignore the fact that Antarctica has like so much stuff going on there. There's rumors of HARP and direct energy weapons and different things are going on there. And that's where the ozone layer hole is at. Is that a coincidence? I mean, it looks like they're literally trying to destroy the planet. And I don't feel like this is okay. It's not okay. It's not. The disgusting, the fact that they've been creating things without considering, okay, you go look at buy stuff at Walmart now. It's gotten worse since COVID. Almost everything I get there will break. It's the only stores in my small mountain town. Okay. So you have to travel for hours to get to like another store. And it's like, get a water hose and it'll just break, either the first day in the first few weeks. My pain doctor said it, her water hose from Walmart split the first time she turned it on. Mine busted, a couple of weeks later. Like shoes, they'll fall apart in a few months. This is not sustainable. Why is our government not acknowledging this stuff? The fact that almost everything we buy is falling apart and it doesn't last is disgusting. Okay, this is not natural. I don't believe this is like human technology here. I believe there's dark entities that wanted us to have technology to self-destruct. Okay. And we've got to do something about it. I really do think the answer is to, as Pluto enters Aquarius, which I do think with this Mars-Pluto thing, watch out, guys, that they are not trying to start a war. And the reason why I say that, I think they want to self-destruct this planet because they know they need to break us down before Pluto is really, really heavily into Aquarius when people finally start to wake up enough to want to rebel. I think their goal is to make us weak and broken before we fully, like the lowest vibrational people on this planet, wake up enough and hurt enough to want to rebel. And because we know Pluto and Aquarius, that is like, revolution central, And people try to say Aquarius rules technology. I actually think that is also a lie. I think Aquarius rules the electricity. I am an Aquarius stellium, by the way. I think we rule the electricity that runs through technology. I am not technologically advanced whatsoever. I have no ability. Like I'm not techie friendly, right? I can learn it fairly well, but the energy, we're very energetic beings. We hold water, electricity and water together, very, very potent and dangerous. Okay. So, be cautious that they're not trying to start something and they're not trying to harm us. And I think what we need to do is we do need to collectively learn how to not only raise our vibration, not by being toxic positive, but by being conscious and caring, having empathy here. Empathy, Sam, empathy. Empathy, Bledsoe. Okay, so have empathy and be aware of the suffering in the world. But we need to pull out, we need to actually raise the indigenous cultures up, the native indigenous cultures, Turtle Island, what have you, in Australia, my ancestors, the Pictish people, the Druids, my ancient Scandinavian ancestors. We need to rise up and bring our animistic ancient ways back. We need to claim autonomy and sovereignty back. We were never meant to have to pay to survive, pay for food, pay for water, pay for shelter, pay for taxes. We were meant to live at one with nature, and we can't do that so long as the matrix is got a web hold on us. And they have no loyalty. The ones who run this world have no loyalty to this planet and no love for it. And they don't care how much they rape and destroy it. And we have got to fight back. And I do think it starts within. It's not about violent revolution. It's about knowing that your source and your creator is within you and learning how to shine that light, learning how to embrace that divine feminine. We need to actually take advantage of the disadvantage like an owl and understand that these things, these beings, they think they have the upper hand, but they're going to fall into their own trap. Like they're literally digging their own grave. Okay. And I always say, if you are putting me in a box or you're putting yourself in a box, politically, religiously, or whatever, that is a coffin-shaped box, my friends. And you can decorate it, you can hang pictures in it, you can make it nice and cozy, but you're still burying yourself when you do that. So you've got to get real. We have got to get real, and we've got to understand there's very real enemies out there, and the government is not your friend, not even close. It's supposed to work for us, and yet somehow we find that we're constantly having to answer to it. And it is not our God. It's not. And our creator, our kingdom of heaven is within us. And it's not the past, it's not the future, it's not way out in outer space, it's not our circumstances. It's within, here, now, in the present moment, that we have the most power. And so I want to be able to kind of collectively help wake people up, throw my pieces out there. And I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I know that. And I don't want to be. I quite frankly don't like this low vibration and the neurotypical behavior of most people. I really want to, kind of spark people who are searching for truth, those who actually are out there intentionally wanting to grow. And I am constantly wanting to learn and grow as well. And it's nothing personal, against Chris Bledsoe or the people who try to debunk him. I actually feel like we all have very valid experiences and very valid facts and very valid feelings and memories. I actually love that we're also very different. So I do want to end this with kind of a thank you if you made it this far, and understand I have so much more to give. And because I come from a STEM family of scientists, my father is a professional petroleum engineer, and I have the so much science in my family, and yet I am so mystical. And I tested metaphysics, like I tested tarot, I tested astrology, I tested everything. Like, if you don't believe in astrology, you have not looked at your natal chart and studied it, or your transits, or when not to go out in town and when people are going to be crazy. Okay, your Sunday horoscope is not going to cut it, and knowing your sun sign is not going to cut it. So, I have the amount of information I can put out there. And even with my dreams, okay, you may say it's just a dream. I have tons of dreams that don't matter, I have PTSD because I've been abused a lot. So I have nightmares every night, all the time. I have all kinds of nightmares. It's pretty normal for me. But when I have one of those dreams, I know. I have prophetic dreams a lot. I can get into more dreams about 9/11 and stuff at some point, whatever. But I know things where they're going to happen a lot. I also kind of dream about things in the past that people tried to cover up, and people's intentions. I see what is behind their behavior. So my dreams are very, very important. I'm telling you, my family is a long lineage of dreamers. My parents both have the dreams, but they ignore them. My dad literally had a dream repeatedly where Jesus, God, or something actually showed him that both the right and the left politics are bad. It's a long story, but he won't listen. He's still, I catch him watching Fox News and constantly wanting to, promote Trump and all this. I haven't talked to him in over a year. I've kind of cut them off. But it's just that why would he be given this dream by spirit so many times, and yet he still refuses to submit to his gift and to his maker? He's in rebellion of his maker, but he'll say, I am, because I like tarot and because I'm a mystic. But it's just people that my bloodline wouldn't listen. The same grandmother that told me that those were demons attacking me in astral did also later on tell me that I was a channel and psychic like her, and that my gifts are coming out very unstable because my parents have been denying theirs. And if I don't embrace mine, then it's going to come out very bad on my kids. And I have tried really hard to embrace it. I had years where I would deny it because of guilt and shame from my family and society. But I have tried, and I've fully committed to it, for ever since I've cut my family off. I've fully committed to being authentically me. And I have watched my children thrive so much, so much. My daughter, oh my God, my kids, their gifts are blooming. My daughter's intuition is through the roof. And my son has always been a dreamer too. But anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here for now. And if any of you guys are wanting to contact me or anything, that's going to take time for me to get all that together. I know you can try to put comments on the YouTube version. I'm going to try to get this out on other platforms like Spotify and whatnot, because I don't like YouTube very much. And YouTube literally, I've noticed all the people I listen to on like Spotify is totally shadow banned on YouTube, and you can't hardly find them. It's very difficult to. So I know I'm shadow banned too. I can't get views on YouTube either, and that's fine. Whatever. But um, if you want to like leave a comment there, sometimes it takes me a while before I'll go and like read them. And sometimes they won't get posted publicly until I do, to weed out the crazy psychos and the scammers too, like scammers that'll post weird stuff. And so I just have it on filter all, and YouTube punishes you when you do that by not notifying you of the comment. And if you have it not filtered where people can post and then you can read it later, or if you have it where you only filter sussy ones, that doesn't work. The worst ones they'll post without letting you know it ever posted. Ever. They don't even notify you got a comment. It'll be the one that is the most disgusting. So I really filter my comments there, and I don't check them every day, but I do need to get like, eventually like an email contact and that sort of thing. I do have a website, but I don't have email set up on it yet. I do have the Paranormal Mystic website, and I want to start getting all that open. This is a long-term project, a long-term goal. This is like something like I am birthing, and I appreciate your patience, and I love you, and I bless you. Until next time.